Hello friends. In this video we will take up a simple JavaScript project in which we create a wish list. As you can see on the web page, the different products are listed along with their name, image and price, and each product has a Add to List button. Whenever we click on the Add to List button of any product, it will be visible on the right hand side panel under my wish list. One more feature is that I cannot add a product multiple times to the wish list. For example, if I have Apple product in the wish list, I cannot add it again by clicking on the Add to List button. I can add as many products I desire from the product list to the wish list. The layout of the web page needs styling applied through CSS and HTML. I will take up JS in the project and will not be explaining HTML and CSS. If you need some briefing on these topics, you may go through my HTML tutorial for beginners and CSS tutorial in Hindi courses, the links for which I have shared in the description. The CSS course covers from the basics to the advanced topics like CSS Grid and Flexbox. Now we will take up this particular web page and discuss its codebase. We will build up JS from scratch. As I again repeat, my full focus is on JS in this video. So, we close the web page and move on to Versus Code window and have a look at the layout and structure of the wishlist.html. We see that the details of each product are carried within a div with class product. At the top level, our page is divided into 4 sections: header, main, aside and footer within the body element. Header has the heading of the web page, main has the content which has the complete product listing, aside has the wish list, and the footer has the copyright message. When I view this web page in the browser, I will see a single product because this is the startup file with markup of just one product. You will be able to access the startup file and the associated CSS and images from my GitHub link given in the description. Now let us talk about the functionality. We will add more products to the HTML file. We see from line no 18 that div id equals product 0, then we have the image, name, type and price, and then a button with id equals 0. We will add other products with the same pattern. Every product will have its number sequentially increased by 1. For example, next product div will have an product id equals 1 and the button also will have an id equals 1. This is important because in JS I am controlling the action of adding the product based on this id. Whichever button I click, the product with the same id gets added to the wish list. And within the wish list also I store this id, and when we click the remove button, the div with the specific id gets removed from the wish list. So, button ID number should match the product ID. After copying the first product div, we will make the relevant changes. We pick up the next image from the images folder, which is banana.jpg, and change the product name to bananas. Type will remain as fruit, pricing will be changed. We will add 5 to 6 items so that we feel good working on the page and easily understand the add and remove process. Next product in queue is carrot. We select the image, change the name to carrots, type to vegetable, and change the price. And as I said, it is important, so we will change the id to 2. Next is grapes. We select the image and change the values for id, image, name and price. Next in queue is guava. We repeat the process of changing the relevant values. Now we can view the page in the browser to see the 5 products added to the product list. Whichever product I want to add to the wish list, I will click on the Add to List button for that product. We see at line number 7 that we have linked wishlist.js script with this HTML file. We will write all of our JS code in the wishlist.js file. We see that all the button elements have class, but we will refer to this class in the wishlist.js file. In wishlist.js file we declare an array to store the products added to the wish list. We will use the array to prevent duplicacy of products. We will create a setup function which will wire an event listener with the add to list buttons when the window loads. Then we have the addItem function which will be added as the event handler for the click event of the add to list button elements. When a button will be clicked, this function will add the corresponding element to the wish list. The remove item function will be added as an event handler to the remove button in the wish list and will remove the corresponding product from the wish list whenever the button is clicked. We will wire the setup function to the load event of the window object using window.addEventListener function. Whenever the window loads, the setup function will be called. To see this in action, I can give a message to the developer console through console.log window loaded. Now when we open the wishlist.html file in the browser and open the console in the developer tools, we will see the message window loaded. In the setup function, I will wire the event listener with every add to list button. For this purpose, I will create an array of buttons by using the document.querySelectorAll function referring to the class but. Using a for loop, I will wire an event listener with all of these button elements. For I equal to 0, I less than products array.length increment I. Point the onClick event of each element to a function which calls the addItem function within itself. The code within the setup function will run when the window loads and wire each add to list button's click event with the addItem function. Our task within the addItem function is to add the product for which the button is pressed to the wish list. First, we will check whether the button is pointing to the right product. For this, we will do a console.log with label product and the value within the ID attribute of the button. Using the getAttribute function of JS, we will get the value of the ID attribute of the button and assign it to a variable product ID. Now we save the file and reload the browser. When I click on Add to List button of a product, the corresponding ID should be displayed in the JS console. We can see when we click on the first element, the product ID 0 is displayed in the console. Likewise, clicking on any product's Add to List button should bring up the corresponding ID in the console. I want to use this product ID and add the corresponding div to the wish list. We will point a variable named product div to this div's content. Within our HTML, we have the product div. It is label product suffix to the corresponding button's ID. For example, if the button's ID is 0, the corresponding product's ID is product 0. So we use document.getElement by ID product plus product ID. We have to create new content where we need to add the details of the product div. Let's call that as wish div. We will use const wish div equals document.createElement div to create this content. Then we will use setAttribute function to set this div's ID and class. We will set the id as wish plus product ID and class as product. Then we will create an input element using document.createElement and then use setAttribute to specify its type as button, and value as remove. And on the click event of this input element we need to call the function removeItem passing it the id of the product. Finally we need to append this as a child element of the wish div, and before this we need to set the inner hail of the wish div as equal to the inner hail of the product div. Once we point the inner hail of the wish div to that of product div, the content of the clicked product div is assigned to the wish div. Finally we need to add the wish div to the aside section. From the HTML we see that the aside section has an ID of Wishlist. So we declare a variable named aside and use document.getElement by ID Wishlist to point it to the aside section. Aside.append child wish div will add the selected product to the wishlist. After adding this functionality, whenever I click on the Add to List button for any product, the product should appear on the wish list panel on the right side of the page. Here we see we are getting an error, product is not defined. We trace the error to line number 20. Wish div.set attribute class product. We should have enclosed product in double quotes. We move to the browser and reload the page. Again we get the error set attribute is not a function. Moving back to HTML we see there is a typo on line number 24 and rectify it. We again move to the browser, reload it and see when we click on Add to List button for a product its detail appears under the My Wish List section. If I click on the Remove button nothing will happen because I have not yet created the functionality of the Remove button. For this we need to work on the removeItem function. To refer to the particular product we say const product equals document.getElementById, wish plus product ID. For removing the element from the document we will use remove function as product.remove. We will now remove the console.log function calls we had used for testing purpose from the setup and the add_item functions. After this we reload the page. Now you see that when I click on Add to List button for a product again after adding it to the wish list, a duplicate entry for the product is created. We do not want this to happen. To control this we will use the wish list array we created earlier. Every item we add to the wish list should have its id stored in this array. For this, in the add_item function after the append child wished if function call, we will push an element into the array by saying wishlist.pushProductID. And when I display the wish list array by printing it to the console, the ID of the products added to the wish list are displayed. We need to check whether a product exists in the wish list before we call the code for adding it. This will be done at the beginning of the add_item function. So we say, if not wishlist.findItem equals product ID, means if product ID does not exist in the wish list array, then only run the code to add the item to the wish list. Now we reload the page and try to add a product multiple times to the wish list. Like here, when I add bananas and carrots to the array and then again click on the Add to List button for carrots, nothing would happen, because wish list array already has the id for carrots. Clicking on any other item like guava will add that item to the wish list. So this way we have prevented duplicacy in the wish list. Now when I remove an item from the wish list and click the Add to List button for that item again, it does not get added to the wish list. This is so because the product ID exists in the wishlist array. When I remove an item, I need to remove its product ID too from the array. Within the remove item function, I need to add the code for this. We will use the JavaScript filter function for this. Wishlist equals wishlist.filter item not equal to product ID. All the items which do not match the product ID will be returned. As a result, the removed product's ID will be dropped from the wishlist array. We will reload the page again and add 2 items, say bananas and carrots, to the wishlist. Removing the items, I will be again able to add them to the wishlist. So the process is add product ID to the wishlist array while adding the item, and remove product ID from the wishlist array while removing the item. To appreciate this, let us add a console.log for the wishlist array in the remove item function also. Now I reload the page and add 3 items to the wishlist. We see that bananas have ID 1, apples have ID 0, and guavas have ID 4. Let us remove bananas from the wishlist and observe that when content of wishlist array is printed in the console, the ID for bananas is also removed, so array is also being updated along with the content panel. Now we want the gap between remove button and the next item in the wishlist. For this we will add a style attribute to the wish div with margin bottom as 10 px. I am also removing the console.log messages from the code. Let's reload the browser. Adding items to the wish list shows there is now a proper gap between the remove button and the next item. Our wish list project is complete now, and I repeat again, you can download the code from the GitHub repository, the link for which is shared in the description of the video. If you liked this video, then please hit the like button, subscribe the channel and click on the bell icon for receiving future video updates. Thank you, friends.